Hi, my name is Orla. Welcome to my channel. In this channel I read short stories for children and adults who are interested. In today's video I'll be reading another story from Girls Who Slay Monsters, written by Ellen Ryan, illustrated by Shona Shirley MacDonald. So get cozy, cuddle down and we will begin. This one is called Crede. She's a war hero based in Kerry in Ireland. And that's her. She has an eye there, which we will learn about later. Crede was known among mortals as a spoiled brat, with pouting lips and ringlets in her hair so long they reached the floor. Her parents ruled the mighty purple uplands of Ireland's County Kerry, but spent their time travelling from one faraway feast to the next. Crede was always left alone in their castle. In place of giving her attention, the king and queen showered their daughter with gifts, from a magical milking cow to Irish sunstones which glowed beneath a full moon. They never asked the goddess to fulfill royal duties like meet with local mortals or attend official gatherings. In fact, Crede was never given chores of any kind. Instead, the goddess spent every day moping about in her chalk-coloured castle. Poor Crede. But one day, without warning, Crede's parents announced they were returning home to the Outworld's bountiful land, and she would have to stay in Kerry to watch over the mortals. "We have ruled here for years," her father said. "Now you're of age, daughter. It's your turn to be in charge." Crede was appalled. "Please don't make me stay in this world without you," she pleaded with her father. "If I weren't immortal, I might die of loneliness." But sadly, they left anyway. So just as her parents had done, Crede decided to spend her time travelling throughout Ireland and Scotland. She visited markets wherever she went and spent her days searching out treasures for her home, from golden goblets and invisibility cloaks to the purple feathers of magical birds. Then she stole them. Pop. She could easily have bought the valuables, as she had plenty of gold. But this was like a game to the goddess. It gave her a giddy rush to take things without being seen. The danger of getting caught was far more thrilling than sitting around at home feeling lonely. Though eventually the thrill wore off, and it became a bad habit that she could not stop. Every time the goddess returned home with her latest loot, she felt guilty and ashamed. So she should. Word spread through Kerry that their spoiled ruler was now a thief as well. Crede even overheard a maid call her the most dishonest girl in Ireland. But all that was about to change when, one frosty winter, war ripped through the county. A fleet of foreign soldiers had shored up on the white beach of Vintry in a bid to take over the kingdom. From the safety of her bedroom balcony, Crede watched local children crying as their parents left, for war. And over the following weeks, she was horrified to see those children starve without anyone to support them. Crede knew she was unpopular, but for the first time in her life, she had to get involved in the lives of her subjects. So she filled her chariot with treasure and every scrap of food she could spare, from elderweed to cowberry pies, and delivered some to each home. The locals were stunned when they opened their doors. "Goddess, is that you?" Some would say, unable to believe their own eyes. "This food isn't much," she replied, feeling a little embarrassed. "But I also have invisibility cloaks to hide your children, in case our enemies advance to the village." Despite Crede's reputation, the mortals were very grateful to her and invited her into their huts. Soon she knew every child's name and tenderly cared for them. She told them stories to help send them to sleep each night. They would sit on her lap, playing with her ringleted hair, and ask if everything would be all right. Crede comforted them as best she could. The children saw her as a true goddess, someone to believe in, and it made Crede feel needed and valued. But the war was worsening. One day, 2 injured soldiers returned to the village with worrying reports. They said the enemy was incredibly skilled, with great armories and deadly battle plans, whereas the Kerry recruits had only spears to protect themselves, and many were weak with hunger. When Crede heard this, she raced back to the castle. She found several weapons that she had stolen over the years, mounted and displayed throughout the building, and now she wrenched them from the walls. Next, she ran out to her magical cow with its endless supply of fresh milk. She hung the weapons across the cow's back and led it to the village. The children cried as their goddess departed for the battlefield, but she knew they could manage for a little while by themselves. As she made her way over the winding, lichen-covered passes of the Kerry Mountains, Crede was terrified, but focused her thoughts on those children who needed their parents home. As night fell, Crede arrived on Vintry Beach and made her way along the dunes. Dark figures ran back and forth along the water's edge, their shouts and cries almost drowned by the crashing waves. Under cover of darkness and with some difficulty, the goddess steered the cow across the sand until she reached the Kerry army base. When the soldiers saw Crede and the animal laden down with weapons, they ran to her and almost cried with relief. One or two even hugged her. Ooh. They stank so badly of sweat and blood that it made her queasy. And as the goddess walked among the soldiers, she saw that many of the injured women whose children she had cared for and comforted. More than ever before, Crede wished to be of service to her subjects. But as she heard more details about the war, she realised no amount of food or weaponry would make a difference. Her army had been outmanoeuvred and outwitted on every charge they made. She was desperate to help, but didn't know how to advise her army. "If only I knew the enemy's next move," Crede said in despair, then I'd know how to fight them. Suddenly, there was a strange pulling sensation in her belly button. She felt herself sucked across the beach and thrown down into the enemy's base. She screamed in fright, but no sound came out of her mouth, and when she looked down at her body, it wasn't her own. Instead, Crede was inside the head of a big, bearded warrior who was bellowing out orders to his men. She was in the mind of the enemy army general. And somehow she knew this man's thoughts as well as her own, from his daughter's name to his plans for the next attack. Armed with this information, she concentrated hard and willed herself back into her own body. Again, she felt that strong pull in her belly and was sucked back into her body, returned among her people. Here, in the sandy trenches, the goddess had discovered her magical power. She was a mind reader, and it was the greatest treasure she had ever found. Crede knew how her army could win the next battle. I know when and how they're going to attack, she told her soldiers, and so we can figure out a way to stop them. Her subjects gathered around to make a plan. Crede's inside information changed the course of the war, and soon the Kerry army had driven the enemy off the beaches, back onto their ships, and far away, never to return. Crede saved many lives and reunited parents with their children. Aww. From that day forward, the mortals forgot her past behaviour and loved their ruler as much as she loved them. She spent her days playing with the children and looking after her people as well as she could. Crede never felt lonely again, and as she was welcomed warmly into every house, not only as their goddess, but as one of the family. Oh, the end. Another great story for Girls Who Slay Monsters. A great book, recommend. Till the next one. Bye bye.